So the NBA award finalists came out recently, and to me the answer to most of these are pretty simple. Every year there are countless debates and arguments that span for hours and days about who should win these awards, but with this video I'm going to show you how simple these answers really are. So starting with the Coach of the Year, the finalists are Kenny Atkinson from the Cleveland Cavaliers, JB Bickerstaff from the Detroit Pistons, and Ime Udoka from the Houston Rockets. And for me, this answer is pretty simple. It has to be JB Bickerstaff. I mean, if you think back to last season, the Pistons won 14 games, were the laughingstock of the entire NBA, and at one point I think lost 28 games in a row with Monty Williams. He leaves, JB comes in, and they win 44 games and become the only team in NBA history to triple their win total from one season to the next. If you look at the Rockets and the Cavs, those that had a jump from last year to this year. However, the leap was not nearly as significant, as the Cavs last year won 48 games, which was still good, and the Houston Rockets had a huge jump last year when they won 41 games. However, a 16 and a 10 game improvement in wins is not the same thing as a 30 game jump in which you saw from the Pistons this year. Now, for the Clutch Player of the Year, the finalists are Jalen Brunson from the New York Knicks, Anthony Edwards from the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Nikola Jokić from the Denver Nuggets. Now, I don't actually have the clutch stats on me, but you're just gonna have to take my word for it when I tell you that Jalen Brunson had the best clutch stats this year, and that's a fact. Not only that, but if you watch any Knicks games this year, it damn near felt that this man could not miss in the fourth quarter. Clutch Player of the Year has always been one of the more easier awards to tell because stats do pretty much tell the whole story with this award. And yeah, like I said, Jalen Brunson had the best stats in the clutch. He should win the award. Next up, we have Sixth Man of the Year. Finalists are Malik Beasley from the Detroit Pistons, Jerome from the Cleveland Cavaliers, and Payton Pritchard from the Boston Celtics. Now this one's pretty tough because all three players had really great years coming off the bench. However, there is one player who I feel had a much more impactful season in regards to his team, and that player would be no other than Malik Beasley. Now Malik Beasley played all 82 games and averaged 16 points per game for a team that improved their win total by 30 wins. Since Jaden Ivey got injured, you could legitimately argue that Malik Beasley was the second best player on the team this year. He also had one of the best three-point shooting seasons of all time, becoming only the third player in NBA history, besides Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, to make at least 300 three-pointers in a season, while shooting at least 40% from three. Of course, Jerome and Payton Pritchard also had great seasons. However, I think the main difference is that those guys are probably around the 6th best players on their teams, while you could argue Malik Beasley this year was their second best player. So all that is why I'm giving this award to Malik Beasley. Next up, we have the Most Improved Player, and the finalists are Cade Cunningham from the Detroit Pistons, Dyson Daniels from the Atlanta Hawks, and Ivica Zubac from the Los Angeles Clippers. The answer to this one is pretty obvious for me. It has to be Dyson Daniels. I mean, we already knew Cade Cunningham and Zubac were good. They've been good in the past, but most casuals probably couldn't even tell you who Dyson Daniels was last year. This man went from 5.8 points per game last year to 14.1 this year. He improved his points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, steals per game, blocks per game, field goal percentage, and three-point percentage from last year. Not to mention, he was also the best perimeter defender in the league this year. So yeah, this is a no-brainer to me. Has to be Dyson Daniels. Okay, so next we have the Defensive Player of the Year, and the finalists are Dyson Daniels from the Atlanta Hawks, Draymond Green from the Golden State Warriors, and Evan Mobley from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, I think this one might actually be the toughest award. I honestly think all three of these people are deserving, and if either one of these people won the award, I would not have a problem with it. However, with all that being said, I'm going to go with Dyson Daniels here, and I might be a little bit biased, but I think we need to start showing some love to perimeter defenders. 99% of the time, the Defensive Player of the Year goes to the big, and while I do agree that bigs have a greater impact on defense overall, when you have a wing player who has such a historic defensive season as Dyson Daniels becomes the only player since 1991 to average at least 3 steals a game, then I think you have to give it to him. Like I said, if any of these three won, I think it would be fair. However, Dyson Daniels impressed me the most this season as I literally watched multiple elite ball handlers being afraid of dribbling in front of him. Next up, we have the Rookie of the Year, and the finalists are Stephon Castle from the San Antonio Spurs, Zachary Richache from the Atlanta Hawks, and Jalen Wells from the Memphis Grizzlies. Now overall, I feel like this was a very weak rookie class. No one here really jumped out the page. I do feel like if Jordan McCain stayed healthy, he probably could have ran away with this award. However, with all that being said, I'm going to be picking Stephon Castle from the San Antonio Spurs. Castle averaged more points, rebounds, assists, and steals than the other candidates, while also playing a bigger role for his team. Now, Richard Shai and Jalen were more efficient, however, I don't think that's enough to give them the edge. So yeah, Stephon Castle is my Rookie of the Year. And last but not least, we have the most toxic award of them all, the MVP. Finalists are Giannis Antetokounmpo from the Milwaukee Bucks, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the Oklahoma City Thunder, and Nikola Jokić from the Denver Nuggets. Now, if you followed the MVP conversation at all this year, then we all know this is pretty much a two-man race between Shai and Jokić. Now, of course, Giannis had another fantastic season. However, Jokić has better stats and more wins, and Shai just has so many wins, he can't be ignored, while also having great stats. Now, I'm not going to rehash all the MVP arguments because we have literally heard about them all season long. Everything simply just boils down to a stats versus wins argument between Jokić and Shai. However, what most people fail to realize is that Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has both the wins and the stats. So let's just look at what Shai did as an individual. He averaged 32.7 points per game, which won him the scoring title, averaged 6.4 assists, 5 rebounds, with also 1.7 steals and 1 block a game. He led the league in plus minus, and not only did he lead the league in plus minus, he had the largest gap between the first and second player on his team in single season plus minus. And not only did he do that, he had the largest gap between the first player in the league and the second player in the league in total season plus minus. So for as good as you want to say his team was, he was the difference. He also had 72 consecutive 20-point games, only behind Oscar Robertson with 76 and Wilt Chamberlain with 80. 72. Do we understand how absurd that is? That's something that Jordan, Kobe, Harden, Durant, all these great scorers couldn't do. And one thing that Jokić always has against his contemporaries is the advanced stats. However, Shai beat Jokić in EPM, LeBron, win shares per 48, and single season RAPM. And you all probably have no idea what any of that means, but it's okay. All you need to know is that a lot of those advanced stats favored Shai this year. Add all that to the fact that the Thunder won 68 games this year, which has only been done by 6 other teams in NBA history, and add all that to the fact that the Thunder had the largest point differential by a team in NBA history, had the most double-digit wins by a team in NBA history, had the largest gap between the first and the second seed in NBA history, and had the best record against the opposing conference in NBA history. Both candidates had historic stats. Jokic's stats were even more historic. However, Shai also had historic team success, and that is why my 2025 MVP is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.